Every day, a roadside food seller gave a homeless little boy food from her small shop. She never asked for anything. She did not know his story. But one quiet morning, something strange happened. 4 big SUVs stopped right in front of her shop, and her whole life changed in a way she never expected. Who were the people in those SUVs? And what was the boy's true connection to them? Before we begin this emotional journey, if you love touching African stories that restore your faith in humanity, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. And if you're already part of our family, drop a heart emoji in the comments. Sit back and find out as we delve into this touching story. In a quiet corner of Abuja, far from the busy roads and fine houses, a small boy walked alone. His name was Emmanuel. He was only 6 years old, but life had already made him feel like an adult. Every morning, before the sun rose fully, he stepped out of the unfinished building where he lived with his mother. He would whisper to himself, "I must find food today. Mommy needs to eat." Emmanuel's mother, Natasha, lay weak inside a small, rough room they made for themselves in an unfinished building. She was fighting kidney disease, and some days she couldn't even lift her head. Still, every time Emmanuel stepped out, she tried to smile. "Emmanuel," she whispered softly, "please be careful and come home early." "I will, Mommy," Emmanuel would always reply, holding her hand for a few seconds before going out. But life had not always been this difficult. Years before he was born, it was different. Natasha had once been a cheerful young woman. She owned a small provision shop, a business she started right after graduating from university. She sold rice, beans, milk, bread, and small snacks. Her shop helped her pay her bills and gave her hope for a bright future. Back then, she was also in love. The man's name was Michael. They met in school. He was smart, gentle, and full of dreams. He wanted to travel abroad to get his master's degree. He even got a scholarship, but he didn't have money to process his travel documents. Natasha believed in him so much that she used almost all her savings to support him. She told him, "Michael, don't worry. One day, everything will work out." He always replied, "Thank you, Natasha. I promise I will make you proud." When Michael finally got the money he needed, he traveled abroad. They called each other every day. Natasha would laugh when she heard his voice. She was sure their future was bright. But then something changed. 2 weeks after he arrived abroad, his calls suddenly stopped. Natasha tried calling him again and again. She worried, she cried, she prayed. "Why can't I reach him?" she kept asking herself. No answer came. Then, in another 2 weeks, she started noticing some changes in her body. She felt weak, she felt sick, she felt different. She went to the hospital, and the doctor told her she was pregnant. Natasha stared at the doctor. "Pregnant?" she whispered. "How? How will I take care of this child alone?" But she made her choice. She kept the pregnancy. And months later, she gave birth to a boy. She named him Emmanuel. Can you imagine the pain of being abandoned while pregnant? Have you ever had to make a difficult choice alone? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story is already touching your heart, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps us share these powerful stories with more people around the world. As Emmanuel grew, he became a bright, happy child. When he started kindergarten, Natasha worked hard to pay his school fees and bought him small toys whenever she could. They weren't rich, but they were happy. Then everything fell apart again. When Emmanuel turned 4, Natasha started feeling very tired. At first, she thought it was stress, but it got worse. Her legs felt heavy. Her stomach felt weak. Sometimes she felt like she would fall. One morning, Natasha tried to stand up and get a little water, but her legs were too weak and she almost fell. Emmanuel quickly grabbed her clothes with his tiny hands. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Emmanuel asked, his eyes wide. Natasha forced a small smile. Sorry, dear. Mommy's just tired. Don't mind me. Emmanuel looked at her confused but worried. Mommy, sit down, he said softly. But deep down, Natasha knew something was wrong. She went to the hospital. After many tests, the doctor sat with her. Natasha, he said gently, you have kidney failure. You need a transplant. And until then, you need dialysis 2 times a week. Natasha felt tears in her eyes. How much will all this cost, doctor? She asked. A lot. And you must travel abroad for the transplant. Natasha tried. She tried with everything she had, but dialysis was too expensive. Slowly, within the space of 2 years, her savings disappeared. She sold her freezer. She sold her small furniture. Even after all that, it was not enough. She could not pay rent anymore. She could not pay Emmanuel's school fees, so he had to stop school. She and Emmanuel were forced to leave their house. She cried as she carried her son out of the place they once called home. They moved into a small, dusty corner of an unfinished building. She cleaned it the best she could and made it their new home. Now, with no shop and no money left, with Natasha lying helpless on the floor at home, Emmanuel, only 6 years old, had no choice but to walk the streets every day, begging, hoping someone would give him a little money or food to take home. One morning, as he walked with his tiny feet under the hot sun, he held his small stomach and whispered, Mommy must not go hungry today. I must find something, anything. Emmanuel kept walking slowly along the busy roadside. Cars and bikes passed beside him. He moved carefully, looking left and right. He walked up to a woman holding a nylon bag. Auntie, please, small help, he said softly. The woman looked at him for 1 second, then shook her head and walked away. Emmanuel swallowed hard and tried again. He stepped toward a man buying something from a roadside stall. Sir, please, I am hungry. The man waved him off without even turning. Emmanuel's small heart squeezed in pain, but he kept walking. He tried another person. Please, Auntie. But she only frowned and said, I don't have, before walking away. Some people ignored him like he wasn't even there. Some stared at him with pity, but still walked past without giving anything. Each rejection felt heavy. He looked down at his feet as he walked. He felt tired, sad, and alone. But he did not stop. He whispered to himself, Mommy must eat. I must find something. So he wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, took another small step, and kept going. After a short while, he saw a small local roadside food shop. It was a clean and modest place, with smoke rising from a small pot outside. The sweet smell of food made his stomach growl even more. He walked closer step by step, almost as if he was afraid someone would chase him away. Beside the shop, he saw a small wooden bench. Emmanuel sat on it gently. He placed his hands on his tiny knees. His eyes watched the people passing by. He did not say a word. He only hoped and waited. But unknown to him, his life was about to change in a way he never imagined, and someone somewhere was about to notice him. What would you do if you saw a child like Emmanuel sitting quietly, not even begging? Would you stop and ask? Let me know in the comments. And if you're feeling emotional right now, share this video with someone who needs to remember that kindness still exists in this world. Inside the small roadside food shop, Chioma moved from one table to the other. The shop was hers, a tiny place she had made with her own hands. It wasn't big, and it wasn't fancy, but it was the only thing she had. This shop was her means of survival. She wiped plates. She served hot food. She greeted her customers with a small smile, even when she felt tired. She was only 25, but she had many heavy responsibilities on her shoulders. Her rent had increased, her savings were too small, and she wanted to go back to school one day. Every day she worked, she told herself, Chioma, don't give up. Keep trying. After the morning rush ended, she stood outside with a bowl of soapy water and began washing plates. As she washed, something caught her eye. A little boy was sitting alone on the small bench beside her shop. His legs were thin, his clothes looked old. But what stopped Chioma was his face. His eyes looked tired yet innocent, almost too quiet for a child. Chioma paused. "Who is this boy?" she whispered to herself. She dropped the plate into the bowl and slowly walked toward him. When she reached him, she bent a little, trying to meet his eyes. "Hello," she said gently. "My name is Chioma." "What is your name?" The boy looked up slowly. "Emmanuel," he said in a soft voice. Chioma gave a small smile. "Emmanuel, why are you sitting here alone? Are you waiting for someone?" Emmanuel looked down at his small hands. He rubbed his fingers together. Then he said quietly, I'm hungry." Chioma's eyes softened the moment she heard those words. She looked at the boy with pity. Something about him felt deeper than hunger. It felt like he was hiding a painful truth, but she could see he was truly starving. Without asking more questions, she stood up quickly and walked inside her shop. "Let me get him something to eat," she whispered to herself. She scooped some warm food into a plate and brought it outside. "Here, Emmanuel," she said gently. "Eat first." Emmanuel's face brightened a little. "Thank you, Auntie," he said, his voice full of gratitude. But instead of eating, Emmanuel lifted his head and asked softly, "Auntie, please, do you have nylon or small pack?" Chioma paused. His request surprised her. "Why?" she asked. Emmanuel held the plate close to his chest and said quietly, "I want to take it home." Chioma's heart tightened again. She did not understand anything yet, but she knew the boy was telling the truth. She brushed off her shock and went inside to get a food pack. She returned, repacked the food for him, and tied it gently. "Here you go," she said. "Hold it well." Emmanuel took the nylon carefully, almost as if he was holding something precious. "Thank you, Auntie. Thank you," he said again. Then, without warning, he turned and ran off, with a sudden urgency on his face. Chioma watched him from the doorway, confused. Why is he in such a hurry? She wondered. What is this boy hiding? Something about Emmanuel did not leave her mind, and from that moment, she knew this little boy's story was far from ordinary. Emmanuel ran as fast as his small legs could carry him. When he reached the unfinished building, he slipped inside and closed the wooden board they used as a door. "Mommy, I'm back," he whispered. Natasha lay on the thin mat in the corner. Her eyes were half open. She did not even have the strength to lift her head. Emmanuel placed the food gently on the mat. Then he rushed to the plastic plates beside the wall. His small hands shook a little as he washed one plate with a little water, trying his best to make it clean. He scooped some food into the plate and carried it carefully to his mother. "Mommy, please eat," he said softly. Natasha looked at him with weak eyes. She wanted to speak, but her voice failed her. She had not eaten since the day before. Her hands were too weak to lift the spoon. So Emmanuel knelt beside her and began to feed her little by little. He lifted each spoon slowly. He watched her mouth closely. He waited for her to swallow before giving her another. Natasha managed to whisper, "Thank you, my son." Emmanuel nodded. "Mommy, eat some more, please." When she had eaten enough, he gave her a little water, guiding the cup to her lips so she would not spill it. Then he took a tiny cloth and wiped her mouth gently, the same way she used to wipe him when he was younger. After taking care of her, he served his own food. He did not sit on the mat. Instead, he went to the other side of the small room and sat on the bare floor. He ate slowly, his eyes fixed on the open window. He missed school. He missed learning. He missed running with other children. But ever since his mother fell sick, there was no money for school fees. He had to stop going. He had to grow up too fast. If you're crying right now, you're not alone. This 6-year-old child is feeding his dying mother. If this doesn't break your heart, I don't know what will. Hit that like button if you believe children like Emmanuel deserve better. And comment below. What would you do to help if you met Emmanuel? Later in the evening, Natasha's strength returned a little. She turned her head toward him. Emmanuel, she said softly, where did you get the food? Emmanuel sat beside her and held the nylon gently. Mommy, I saw a small food shop by the road. I sat on the bench there because I was tired. One auntie came out. Her name is Auntie Chioma. She saw me and asked my name. I told her I was hungry, and she went inside and brought food for me. Natasha blinked slowly. Chioma, she whispered. You didn't know her before? No, Mommy, I don't know her. She just helped me. She gave me food, and I told her I want to take it home. So she packed it for me. Natasha's eyes filled with tears. God bless her, she whispered. May God lift her up. May she never suffer. May she never lack. Emmanuel looked at her quietly. Her tears made his small heart squeeze in pain. He crawled close and wrapped his arms around her. Natasha held him weakly. Mommy, Emmanuel whispered, don't cry. I am here. They held each other like that, mother and son, in the quiet room, until their eyes closed slowly, and together they fell asleep. 3 weeks passed quietly, and in those 3 weeks, Emmanuel came to Chioma's shop almost every day. Each morning, he walked in with his small smile, and each day, Chioma gave him food, just as she promised. Sometimes it was rice, sometimes it was beans, sometimes it was whatever she had for the day, but she always made sure he never left empty-handed. As days went by, Chioma began talking to him more. She asked him small questions. Emmanuel, how was your night? Did your mommy eat well? Are you feeling fine today? And Emmanuel answered her with honesty because she made him feel safe. Soon, he started helping in the shop. When Chioma tried to wash a pile of plates, Emmanuel would walk closer and say, Auntie, let me help. Chioma always shook her head. No, Emmanuel, you are just a child. Go and sit. But Emmanuel would insist. Auntie, I want to help you. You help me, too. Before she knew it, he would already be washing one plate after the other with his small hands. Chioma always smiled and said, You are stubborn, you know. And Emmanuel would giggle quietly. Slowly, Chioma became more than a helper to Emmanuel. She became someone he trusted, someone he could talk to, someone who made him feel seen. One afternoon, as Chioma handed Emmanuel another food pack, she bent down and asked, Emmanuel, can I meet your mommy one day? I want to see her. I want to know how she's doing. Emmanuel blinked in surprise. You want to come to my house? Yes, Chioma said with a warm smile. Only if she agrees. I want to visit her. That evening, Emmanuel ran home quickly. Mommy, Auntie Chioma wants to see you. She wants to come to our house. Natasha was shocked at first. Me? She asked. Why? She wants to know how you're doing. She wants to see you. Natasha smiled slowly. Tell her she can come. I would love to meet the woman feeding my child. 2 days later, Chioma closed her shop earlier than usual. She wore a simple dress, packed a little extra food, and a small nylon bag, and waited for Emmanuel to finish sweeping the small corner he liked to sweep. Ready? She asked. Yes, Auntie, he replied, holding her hand. They walked together through the dusty road. Chioma's heart beat fast. She did not know what to expect. When they reached the unfinished building, Chioma stepped inside gently. The room was dim and small. Natasha lay on a thin mat, her face tired but warm. Good evening, ma'am, she said softly as she walked in. Natasha smiled weakly. You must be the Chioma my son talks about. Yes, ma'am, she replied with a humble bow. I brought a little food. I hope it helps. Natasha's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Thank you for taking care of us. Chioma sat beside her, holding her hand. He is a good boy, and I will keep helping him. You are not alone. For the first time in a long time, Natasha felt hope wash over her, and Chioma felt something deeper pulling her toward this family. This is what real humanity looks like. Chioma doesn't have much, but she's sharing what she has. If this inspires you, subscribe to this channel for more stories that restore your faith in people. And hit that notification bell so you never miss these powerful tales. 2 weeks later, far away from the country, a handsome man sat quietly inside his luxurious private jet, with a glass of wine in his hand. The soft lights inside the jet made his face glow, but his eyes looked far away, lost in deep thought. That man was Michael. His clothes were expensive. His wristwatch shone brightly. Everything about him showed that he had become very rich and powerful. But his heart was not at peace. He stared out of the cabin window as clouds passed by beneath the jet. A small sigh left his lips. "I am finally going back home," he whispered to himself. Michael was now the co-founder of a big international tech company. He and his team had created a very popular software application that was now worth billions of dollars. And now he was returning to the country. There was someone he had been thinking about for years, someone he never forgot, someone who gave him love when he had nothing, someone who helped him when he was nobody. Natasha. He touched his chest lightly as memories of her filled his mind. "Natasha, I hope you are okay," he said softly. Back then when he traveled abroad, his first days were good. He and Natasha talked every day. But then something terrible happened. His phone got stolen. He lost all his contacts. "I am sorry, Natasha. I tried to find a way to reach you." He looked at his wineglass and sighed again. "I just want to see her again. I hope she did not give up on me. I hope she waited." He closed his eyes for a moment, holding on to the thought of her smile, her voice, the love they shared. What he did not know was that Natasha was fighting to survive, living in an unfinished building. As he sat inside the jet, thinking about Natasha and their past, the plane landed slowly at the Abuja airport. As he stepped out, an SUV accompanied by 3 private security trucks was already waiting to take him to a hotel. After a week in the country, Michael finally began tracing Natasha's steps. He returned to the old place where they once lived together. He walked through the compound slowly, looking around, hoping for a familiar face. An elderly woman sitting on a wooden stool looked up and froze. "Michael," she said with surprise. "Is that you?" Michael turned quickly. Yes, Ma. You remember me?" "Of course," she replied. "You lived here with Natasha." Michael stepped closer, his heart pounding. "Mama, please, I came to look for her. Do you know where she is now?" The elderly woman sighed deeply. "My son, you left, and shortly after Natasha found out she was pregnant." Michael's eyes widened. "Pregnant?" he whispered. "Yes," the woman said. "She had a child, a boy, but then she became sick, very sick. She could not pay for anything anymore. One day, she packed her things and left. Nobody knows where she went." Michael swallowed hard. Her words hit him like a heavy stone. Natasha had a child. A son. His son. He held his head for a moment, trying to breathe. "So she left with the child?" he asked quietly. "Yes," the woman replied. "And she did not tell anyone where she went." Michael looked away, his eyes wet. "Natasha, you suffered alone." He turned back to the elderly woman, his voice filled with new strength. "Thank you, Ma. Thank you for telling me. I must find her. I must find both of them." The elderly woman nodded sadly. "I hope you do, my son." Michael walked back to his car slowly, his chest heavy, but his mind made up. He was no longer searching for a woman he once loved. He was searching for his family, his Natasha, his son, and he would not stop until he found them. Michael is searching, but he has no idea how close he is to finding them. What do you think will happen when he finally finds Natasha and discovers Emmanuel? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you're hooked on this story, smash that like button right now. One evening, Michael sat in the large living room of the mansion he had bought in a choice location in the city. Worry was written all over his face. He picked up his phone and called his driver. "Have you checked all the places I asked you to?" Michael asked. "Yes, sir," the driver replied. "Every single one. But nobody knows a woman named Natasha." Michael closed his eyes for a moment. He imagined Natasha and the child he never knew. He imagined the suffering they must have passed through alone, with no help, with no support. The thought of Natasha struggling and the thought of his own son suffering somewhere in the city made him think about how many other people were going through the same pain. How many more mothers are sick, like Natasha? He wondered. How many children are suffering like my son? And right there, Michael made a decision. If he could not find Natasha yet, he would at least help people like her. Then, he told his driver, "Look for local hospitals in the remote parts of the city. I want to make donations for sick people," his driver replied immediately. "Right away, sir." The next morning, Michael's phone beeped with a message. His driver had sent him the address of a small hospital hidden far inside a remote area. Michael stood up, grabbed his jacket, and headed outside. His black SUV and the 3 security trucks were already waiting for him. His driver opened the door gently. He stepped in, and they drove off. Soon they reached rough, dusty roads with old buildings on both sides. Michael looked outside the window. "This place is far," he whispered. "People here must be suffering." Suddenly, his stomach made a small sound. He realized he was hungry, but they were too deep inside the remote area. No beautiful restaurant in sight. He was running out of options. Then, he saw it. A small but neat, local roadside food shop. Smoke was rising from a small pot outside. A wooden bench sat by the entrance. It was simple, but it looked clean. "Stop here," Michael said. All 4 vehicles halted in front of the small shop. His driver came down quickly and opened the door for him. He stepped out, but before he could walk in, something caught his eye. A small boy. Thin, quiet, focused. He was washing plates beside the shop with his tiny hands. The soap water splashed on his shorts, but he didn't mind. He washed each plate with care. Michael watched him closely. His careful way of washing the plate, the slow, serious look on his face, it took Michael back to his own childhood. This made him smile and also made him curious about the boy. He slowly walked toward him. "What is your name, young boy?" Michael asked gently. The child looked up. "Emmanuel?" he replied. Michael nodded slowly. "Emmanuel, nice name." Before Michael could say anything else, a young woman walked toward them. It was Chioma. "Good afternoon, sir," Chioma said politely. "Welcome. What would you like to buy?" Michael looked at her for a moment, then looked back at Emmanuel. Something about the boy pulled his attention. His eyes were bright, but his face was too serious for a child. And yet, he kept washing plates with so much focus. Michael felt a sudden curiosity rise inside his chest. "Madam, may I ask why this boy is not in school? Today is Monday, and it is almost afternoon already." Chioma paused. Her smile faded a little as she glanced at Emmanuel with sad eyes. "He is not in school because things are hard for him. His mother is very sick. She cannot work. They cannot afford school fees." Michael looked back at Emmanuel again, and something inside him shifted. A slow, deep compassion filled his heart. His original plan flashed in his mind. He came to donate to the sick. Maybe this was where he needed to start. "Can I see his mother?" Michael asked softly. Chioma stepped forward a little, her eyes narrowing with caution. "Sir, why do you want to see her? I need to know. I cannot just let anyone follow this boy home. I must be sure your reason is safe." Michael nodded gently, understanding her worry. "I respect that. I am not here to harm anyone. I came to this area because I'm planning to donate to sick people in the local hospitals. I want to help families who are suffering. When you told me Emmanuel's mother is very sick, I thought maybe I could help her too." Chioma looked at him again, this time with a softer expression. Okay, she said slowly. If your reason is to help, then you can come with us. His house is not far, Michael signaled to his driver. Chioma quickly locked her shop, then held Emmanuel's hand as they entered one of the vehicles, and they all drove off. They drove through narrow paths. Finally, they reached a small broken building. This is where we stay, Emmanuel said. Michael's chest tightened. He took a slow step inside the building, and when he entered the small room, he froze. His mouth opened slightly. His hands fell by his sides. His heart stopped for a moment. Lying on a thin mat, weak, very tired, struggling to breathe, was the woman he had been searching for all these years. The woman he loved, Natasha. Michael stared at her in shock, unable to move. Nothing in the world could have prepared him for this moment. Oh my God, Michael just found Natasha. And that little boy he's been asking about, that's his son. If you didn't see this coming, hit that like button and comment, did you guess this twist? Michael stood in the small room, frozen. His eyes widened, his lips trembled. Natasha. Natasha, he whispered. Natasha opened her weak eyes slowly. At first, she could not see clearly, but when her eyes focused, she froze too. Michael, she whispered, her voice shaking. It felt like the whole world stopped. Before anyone could say another word, Michael rushed forward. Guards, he shouted. Carry her carefully. Take her to the nearest hospital now. She must get treatment immediately. His security guards moved quickly and lifted Natasha gently. Emmanuel stood at one corner, shocked and confused. He held Chioma's hand tightly. Auntie, are we going with them? He whispered, his voice shaking. Yes, Emmanuel, Chioma said softly. We are going with your mommy. They both followed the guards outside, and one of the vehicles opened for them. Chioma climbed in with Emmanuel, holding him close as the door closed. The convoy moved fast, heading straight to the hospital. With Michael in one car, the guards carrying Natasha in another, and Chioma and little Emmanuel in the third, praying silently that Natasha would survive. At the hospital, doctors rushed Natasha into the emergency ward. They ran tests. They checked her breathing. They checked her blood. They checked how badly the sickness had affected her. After some hours, the doctor walked out to meet Michael. Sir, he said, she is very sick, but there is still hope. She needs a kidney transplant as fast as possible. If not, her condition will get worse. Michael did not waste a second. He turned to the doctor. Start the process, he said firmly. Book the surgery abroad. Use the best hospital. I will handle everything. He picked up his phone and began making urgent calls. His voice was firm. His heart was shaking. He was ready to move mountains for Natasha. While all this was happening, he also remembered Emmanuel and Chioma. He turned to one of his guards. Take the boy and the young lady to my house. Make sure they are comfortable. Chioma was stunned. Sir, why? Why do you care this much? How do you know Emmanuel's mother? Michael only replied, You will understand later. For now, please take care of Emmanuel. Chioma looked at Emmanuel's worried face and agreed. Okay, sir. I will stay with him. She squeezed Emmanuel's hand gently. As the guard led them to the SUV, they drove off to a part of the city filled with beautiful houses, Michael's mansion. Emmanuel stared out the window in surprise. Auntie, are we going to live here? He asked. For now, Chioma said with a small smile, you are safe. Within 3 days, everything moved fast. Michael arranged every document needed. He cleared medical bills, and Natasha was flown abroad for the surgery. Michael offered to donate his kidney. The operation took hours. Doctors worked carefully, and finally the operation was successful. But Natasha had to stay in the hospital for a few days to recover. Days later, when Natasha had gathered a little more strength, she heard slow footsteps entering her ward. The room was quiet. She opened her eyes gently. and then she saw him. Michael. He stood beside her bed, moving carefully because he was still recovering from donating his kidney. His face looked a bit tired, but his eyes were soft and full of care. He pulled a chair closer and sat down slowly beside her. "Natasha," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "you are safe now." Natasha blinked, confused. "What? What happened? Michael, why did we lose contact? Where did you go?" "I wanted to tell you that time. I wanted to tell you I was pregnant. Emmanuel is your child. I wanted you to know." Michael leaned closer and held her hand gently. "Natasha," he said softly, I know now." Natasha's weak eyes widened a little. You know?" Michael nodded slowly. "Yes, when I came back to the country, I went to the old compound where we used to live. An elderly woman there remembered me. She told me everything. She said shortly after I left, you found out you were pregnant. She said life became hard for you. She said you became sick and had to move away." Natasha's eyes filled with tears. Michael continued, his voice shaking with emotion. "When I heard that, when I heard you had a child, my child, it pushed me even more. I told myself, I must find you no matter what. That is why I searched everywhere. That is why I did not stop." Natasha covered her mouth with her weak hand as tears slipped down her cheeks. "Natasha," he said softly, "you are my heart. And now that I know Emmanuel is my son," he paused, holding her hand tighter, "I will never leave you again. Never. I am here now, and I will take care of both of you for the rest of my life." Natasha couldn't hold back anymore. She wept quietly, and Michael held her hand, letting her release all the pain she had carried alone for so many years. "I'm not crying. You're crying." After years of suffering alone, Natasha finally has her family back. Emmanuel finally has his father, and Chioma, her kindness literally changed 3 lives forever. If this story moved you, you need to subscribe to this channel right now. We share stories like this every week that will restore your faith in humanity. Weeks later, after full recovery, Natasha, Michael, Emmanuel, and Chioma all returned to the country together. Michael bought a beautiful house for Natasha and Emmanuel. He enrolled Emmanuel in one of the best schools in Abuja. He made sure Natasha had everything she needed to stay healthy. But Michael didn't forget Chioma, the woman who fed his son when he had nothing, the woman who cared for Natasha when she was helpless. He set up a proper restaurant business for Chioma and made sure she could finally go back to school to complete her education. He told her, "You saved my family. Now, let me help you build your future." Chioma cried tears of joy. She never imagined that feeding one hungry child would change her entire life. As for Emmanuel, he grew up knowing that kindness is the greatest currency in the world. He never forgot the days he walked the streets hungry, and he never forgot the woman who fed him when no one else would. Years later, Emmanuel would grow up to become a doctor who provided free medical care to people who couldn't afford it, just like his mother once couldn't. And whenever anyone asked him why he did it, he would smile and say, "Because one woman taught me that when you have little and you give, you're not losing anything. You're planting seeds that will grow into forests." Wow! What an incredible journey! From a roadside food seller feeding a homeless boy to discovering that boy was the long-lost son of a billionaire who had been searching for them all along. This story proves that no act of kindness is ever wasted. Now, I want to hear from you. Number 1. What lesson touched you the most from this story? Number 2. Have you ever helped a stranger, and did it change your life? Number 3. What story should we tell next on this channel? Drop your answers in the comments below. I read every single one, and I love hearing your perspectives. If this story moved your heart, here's what you need to do right now. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. We share touching African stories like this every single week. Hit the notification bell so YouTube alerts you the moment we upload a new story. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Give this video a thumbs up if it made you cry, smile, or restored your faith in humanity. Share this video with your family, friends, and loved ones. Someone needs to see this today. Someone needs to be reminded that kindness still exists in this world. And if you want another powerful story right now, check out the video on your screen. You're going to love it. Remember, like Chioma showed us, you don't need to be rich to make a difference. You just need to have a heart willing to share. Every small act of kindness creates ripples that can change someone's entire life. Thank you for watching African Folktale King. Until next time, keep spreading love, keep showing kindness, and keep believing that miracles still happen. God bless you all. See you in the next story.